The moment Emma tugged on my sweater and whispered, "Grandma, my parents are going to take all your money," I felt. Before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more stories like this, where quiet strength turns into powerful justice. And in the comments, tell us, have you ever trusted someone who betrayed you in the worst way? When Emma tugged on my sleeve and whispered those 10 words, the world around me stopped. "Grandma, my parents are going to take all your money." She didn't say it with fear. She said it like a warning, like she'd just learned the rules of a cruel game and didn't want me to lose. I stared at my 8-year-old granddaughter, my only grandchild, with her eyes wide and honest. We were sitting on the porch swing, the one Frank built for me 20 years ago. The sun was setting, the birds were singing, and suddenly none of it felt safe anymore. "What did you say, sweetheart?" I asked, keeping my voice calm. Emma's little hands fidgeted in her lap. "I heard Mommy and Daddy talking in the kitchen. Daddy said it's better to move fast before you forget stuff. Mommy said something about the house being in your name." The words landed like stones in my stomach. I knew Brian and Jessica had been having money problems. I'd loaned them over $80,000 in the past 2 years, helped pay for Emma's school tuition, bought groceries, covered a car repair, and even co-signed on a refinance for their mortgage. But take everything? That night, after I tucked Emma into bed, I sat in the dark living room of their home, the same home they moved me into after Frank died, claiming they wanted to keep me close. Now I wondered if it had ever been about love at all. Brian had started calling me forgetful lately, joking about how I kept misplacing things. Jessica had taken over organizing my prescriptions, even though I never asked her to. They insisted on having my mail forwarded to their address for convenience. I thought they were just being helpful. I was wrong. The next morning, I faked a headache, skipped breakfast, slipped out while they were dropping Emma off at school. I drove straight to my friend Marina's apartment. She'd offered her spare room to me months ago when she saw how much I was fading under their roof. At the time, I'd said no. Now I said yes. Marina didn't ask questions. She just made tea, let me cry, and helped me unpack the few things I had. That afternoon, I called my bank. My stomach dropped when the manager told me that Brian had added himself as a co-signer on one of my savings accounts, without my knowledge. I called my lawyer next. David was an old friend of Frank's, semi-retired but sharp as ever. "Tell me everything," he said. I did. The loans, the mail, the bank account, the whispers about memory loss. Emma's warning. David didn't interrupt, just listened. When I was finished, he exhaled. "Maggie, this is financial elder abuse, and if they're planning to declare you mentally unfit, we need to move fast." It felt like I was in a movie, the kind where the kindly grandma is written off until she fights back. Only this wasn't fiction. It was my life. The next few days were a whirlwind. David helped me file paperwork revoking Brian's access to my accounts. We began collecting evidence, bank statements, texts, emails. I changed my power of attorney, had my will rewritten, filed a formal complaint with Adult Protective Services just in case. And then, I disappeared. Not forever. Just long enough to make them nervous. Marina and I took a road trip to a quiet coastal town where Frank and I once vacationed. For a week, I didn't answer calls or texts. I let the silence do its work. The first message came on day 2. "Mom, where are you? Emma's asking for you. Please call." Then another. "We're worried. This isn't like you." And finally, "If you don't come back soon, we'll have to report you missing, for your own safety." That one made my blood boil. They wanted me declared missing, incapable, mentally unfit, so they could take control of my assets. Instead of replying, I sent a single message. "Emma's safe, so am I, and I know everything." Within minutes, my phone rang. I didn't answer. I let it ring. That evening, Marina and I sat on a pier, watching the sun sink into the ocean. I held a cup of hot tea in my hands and felt, for the first time in years, completely awake. I wasn't just someone's mom, someone's grandmother, someone's widow. I was someone who had just taken back her life. And this was just the beginning. If this story stirred something in you, If you've ever had to stand up to someone who underestimated you, share your thoughts in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe for part 2, where the real fight begins. The first voicemail I listened to that Monday morning wasn't even from Brian. It was from Jessica. Margaret, this is all going too far. You've scared Emma. Please call us. We can fix this. We're family. Family. It always came back to that word. The shield they used when they wanted forgiveness, and the sword they used when they wanted control. But family doesn't lie, family doesn't steal, and family certainly doesn't try to get you declared incompetent so they can cash out your life. I called David. How's our lawsuit coming? His voice was steady but cautious. They've hired Martin Burke and Associates. My stomach dropped. Burke was no pushover. He's arguing the money was a gift, David continued. That you gave it to them voluntarily and can't demand repayment now. And what did you tell him? I told him we have 18 months' worth of records proving financial abuse. Your name on utility bills, receipts for groceries, emails where they referred to you as a tenant, not family. It's a clear pattern. I nodded, slowly. What else? A pause. He filed a motion claiming you're mentally unfit to manage your finances. They want a court-ordered psychological evaluation. A chill ran down my spine. They're still trying to have me committed, I said flatly. It's a Hail Mary, David said. They know they're losing. But it was still dangerous. Dangerous enough that I booked the evaluation with Dr. Patricia Coleman for that Friday. I showed up early, dressed like every judge's ideal of a respectable grandmother. Navy suit, pearl earrings, not a strand of hair out of place. Dr. Coleman was warm and professional. She put me through 2 hours of memory and reasoning tests, situational logic problems, and even a vocabulary assessment. You're sharp, she said, smiling as she packed up her folder. I'll recommend no conservatorship. I exhaled. Then David called again. They're asking questions about Frank's life insurance. Frank's? My late husband? Yes. Burke hinted there may be irregularities with the beneficiary. My chest tightened. Frank had handled all our finances. I trusted him. Never questioned the paperwork. What if he had made changes I didn't know about? I hung up and drove straight to Emma's school. She ran into my arms like a child who'd been holding her breath since I left. Grandma, why did you go? I had to, sweetheart. Grown-ups make mistakes sometimes, but I'm okay. I watched her run back to the playground and prayed I was doing the right thing. That night, I stayed awake until midnight, staring at the ceiling, thinking about that policy. The next morning, David confirmed it. There was a second life insurance policy, $2 million. Frank bought it 5 years before he died. My heart began pounding. You weren't the only beneficiary, David said. Who else? Someone named Linda Morrison. I went cold. Frank's secretary, the blonde one with the fake laugh and sharp heels who always stood a little too close. I gripped the edge of my chair. She got $1 million, David continued. The insurance company cut 2 checks, one to her, one to you. But I only received $500,000. David's voice dropped. That's what Burke's team is after. You're missing $500,000. And then I remembered. Brian handled all the paperwork after Frank died. He told me the policy was smaller than expected, that taxes and fees took most of it. I believed him. He had stolen $500,000 from me while I was grieving. I saw red. I called Linda Morrison. To my surprise, she answered. This is Margaret Sullivan, Frank's wife. Silence. Then a cautious, Margaret, I didn't expect. We need to talk. About the insurance. Linda stammered. Your son told me you received your half. My son? He said there was an error, that I should keep quiet and cash the check. I felt sick. Linda, that money was supposed to be split. Frank left us $500,000 each, not $1 million. Long silence. Then softly, I think your son lied to both of us. Then we need to fix it. The next day, I waited outside Brian's office. He looked like he'd seen a ghost when he spotted me. Mom, What are you doing here? I smiled sweetly. Just lunch. Giovanni's, the restaurant where he once celebrated his promotion. He couldn't say no in front of his coworkers. He was still eating his soup when I said, I spoke to Linda Morrison yesterday. His spoon froze mid-air. I know about the second policy. I know about the checks. And I know you stole $500,000 from me to cover up Dad's affair. His face turned gray. I was protecting you, he said quietly. You were devastated. You were robbing me blind. You would have wasted the money. I would have chosen how to waste it. You had no right. Then his phone buzzed. He checked it and paled further. It's Jessica. She says David Morrison is at the house with papers. Oh, that's just the criminal fraud charges, filed this morning. Brian looked like he might faint. Mom, please, think about Emma. You should have thought about Emma before becoming a criminal. I stood up, left cash on the table. One more thing. Linda's giving back what you stole. His voice cracked. You can't do this to me. You did this to yourself. And I walked out. Call to action. If you were Margaret, what would you have done when you discovered the truth? Tell us in the comments. And if you're ready for the final chapter, where justice meets legacy, don't forget to subscribe. You won't want to miss how this ends. The morning Brian was arrested, I was drinking tea on my balcony as the news alert popped up on my phone. Local insurance agent charged with elder abuse and felony fraud. There it was, his mugshot. The carefully constructed persona of a loving family man reduced to a single grim photo. I watched the broadcast in silence. The anchor detailed how Brian Sullivan had stolen over $500,000 from his own mother, forged insurance documents, and attempted to declare her legally incompetent, all while concealing his father's affair and manipulating a grieving widow. My phone exploded with messages. Reporters, neighbors, even women from my church group, but I only answered one call. Grandma? Emma's voice was small, shaky. Mommy's crying. She won't tell me where Daddy is. I inhaled sharply. Sweetheart, I'll be right there. I picked her up from a friend's house. Her bunny was clutched in one hand, eyes rimmed with confusion and fear. Are you in trouble too, Grandma? No, baby, I'm okay. Is Daddy bad now? Your daddy made some bad choices, but people can change, and now he has to fix what he did. We spent the day baking cookies and doing homework. I told her the truth in a way she could handle, about honesty, about boundaries, about love, and most of all, about consequences. That evening, Jessica came to collect her. Her face was pale, makeup streaked, eyes puffy. They say he could get 5 years, she said. That's up to the judge, I replied calmly. Margaret, I know we hurt you, but he's scared. Can't you forgive him? I studied her face, the same woman who stood by while her husband plotted to erase me, who smiled as she filed motions behind my back. But I wasn't the same woman anymore either. I forgave Brian the moment I filed those charges, I said gently. Forgiveness isn't forgetting. It's moving forward. But I won't enable him. He has to face what he's done. Jessica bit her lip, nodded once, and left without another word. 3 months later, Brian pleaded guilty. He was sentenced to 18 months in minimum security prison, plus 5 years probation. The court ordered full restitution, $700,000, including interest, and Jessica had to sell their house. She moved into a small apartment, got a job at a dental office. She started picking Emma up from school herself instead of relying on me like I was some live-in nanny. It was a start. Emma, though, she thrived. She came to visit me every weekend. We painted, baked, did puzzles, and even took long walks to the animal shelter where I started volunteering. Her laughter filled my apartment. She asked questions, good ones, about right and wrong, love and truth. I answered all of them, and slowly, her fear faded. She learned resilience, honesty, boundaries. So did I. I enrolled in art classes at the local college, started a book club with 2 other retired women I met at the community center. I went to sleep at night without locking my bedroom door in fear. At 67 years old, I was finally living for me. The sting of Frank's betrayal, the affair, the hidden insurance, the lies, still echoed sometimes, late at night, when the house was quiet and the memories too loud. But I'd learned something powerful. Being kind doesn't make you weak. Being betrayed doesn't make you broken. And being old doesn't mean you don't still have fight left in you. Then one bright Tuesday afternoon, my phone rang. I recognized the number immediately. Brian. I hesitated and answered. "Mom," he said. "It's me. I know I don't deserve it, but could we try to start over?" I looked out at the world outside my window, children playing in the park, dogs barking, wind rustling through trees. I'd almost let all this slip away once, but not anymore. "Yes," I said softly, "but this time, we do it on my terms." Some stories end in reconciliation. Some end with justice. Mine, it ended with both. Tell me, what would you have done in Margaret's shoes? Would you have filed charges or walked away? Leave a comment, and don't forget to subscribe. Because stories like this, they're just the beginning.